of our experiences back then, and it was a time when Peace Corps was considered in overseas service was considered the Wild West. The program wasn't fully matured yet. I think they made a lot of sort of basic mistakes and where they put us. But it was a very talented group of young people and who managed to survive 2 years under very difficult conditions and go on to do great things with their lives. And the story's told with there's a lot of humor, but also some pointed stories that evoke sympathy and sort of can be inspirational, and a lot of lessons that are imparted, through them. So I think it's a good journey to relive, and I think that most of the people who have read it have been kind of really taken with it in a very, very positive way. It also captures the ethos and the spirit of the times. This was the 1960s, which is crazy in a way, but also a period when people had a sense of self-sacrifice.
Tom Corbett with us.
Go ahead.
Well, Tom Corbett joins us today here in our broadcast. And so, Tom, tell me a little bit about the inspiration for putting this book together.
Mostly it came from a series of get-togethers we finally had beginning about a decade ago after 40 years of being back in the States. Someone pulled together a get-together in the Bay Area, and I had never been to any kind of sort of get-together from high school or college or anything like that. I avoided those like the plague. But this one was special, and I went, and it was very emotional, and we sat around and shared and realized how much we had in common and how that experience changed us. And so we began to sort of collect some of the stories after that. And I wanted to tell that story and tell the story of the group because I think it was emblematic of a lot of young people back a half a century ago who gave up part of their lives to do something that they felt strongly about. And while we didn't save the world, we changed, I think, in very, very fundamental ways. And I often looked at what these people have accomplished in the remainder of their lives, and either Peace Corps selected the best of the best, or something about the experience made them better people. And I'm not sure which story is true.
It is Tom Corbett. He's with us today here on AMFM24-7.com. And he joins us today here on AMFM247.com. And he has got a great book. Seemed like a pretty good idea at the time. And he's with us today here on our big broadcast. So tell me about the cover design for this book.
Well, it's a picture of the Taj Mahal, which is, I suppose, not terribly unique, but it was just a lovely picture, I thought. And that's, of course, very emblematic of India. So that's what we chose to go with. I might say I've also been busy on a couple of other projects, which I can.
Well, let's talk about those then. Well, what are some of your other projects here?
Well, the one that is just now finished up is probably less interesting to the average reader, but it's the second edition of an academic book. I was, for my real career, I was an academic with at the University of Wisconsin in Madison and helped run a research institute. And so a colleague of mine and I were asked by our publisher to put out a second edition of a book on evidence-based policymaking. And that will be coming out later this fall. We're in a very, very final kind of detailed-oriented cleaning up phase of that project. But that's for nerds and academic types.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, more for the typical reader out there is a book I'm working on now, which is called Felicitous Fates. You say Felicitous Fates, okay.
Yes.
It is really the third volume in a trilogy, and who knows, maybe it'll become a quartet, but it was designed to be the third volume of a trilogy and end with this volume, but we'll see. And I started writing this about 3 years ago, not this volume, but the first volume of the trilogy, with just a concept in mind. And the concept was a young girl in Afghanistan under the oppressive rule of the Taliban who wanted to be a doctor, okay, and how she managed to do that. And at the same time, I contrasted that family with a family in the United States, which had wealth and privilege and all of that. Eventually, the two families interrelate. So you've got two family stories that then become intertwined, and there's levels within each family, trials, tribulations, and there's a lot of themes about culture, how one breaks out of one's culture, how one aspires to goals that may seem impossible or difficult at the time. And what was just a kind of an image or in my head for one book. Now I'm on the third volume, and the readers respond, I think, very positively. I think it's the second volume, which is called Ordinary Obsessions. It's got like 4.8 out of 5 stars on Amazon from Amazon Reader Reviews, and the reviewers, the people who have read it and respond and reviewed it, talk about the rich character development and the interesting and fast-paced plots and so forth. But each volume and each work, I try to balance, let's say, character development, some substance, some serious topics, a lot of humor, and sort of the correct pace. So I always view writing books as kind of like writing a symphony. You're trying to balance different dimensions simultaneously, and I think that's probably the challenge of being a good storyteller.
We have got Tom Corbett with us today. He joins us live here in our big broadcast. So Tom, this is a short interview with us today because we've desperately run out of time here in the broadcast. But before we go, how do people buy your books and get involved with what you're doing?
Best thing is to just go on and look at www.booksbytomcorbett.com. Or try to find me on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, but check the website out, www.booksbytomcorbett.com.
Fantastic. Well, Tom, I appreciate you making time for us today. Thanks for coming on the program.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you, my friend. There he goes, Tom Corbett. And we are out of time here on AMFM.